Kylian Mbappé was 19 years old when football made a dangerous mistake. It expected him to replace Messi and Ronaldo. Not someday, immediately. The problem? Nobody had ever carried that kind of pressure before. Because replacing two players who changed football forever is impossible. And yet, somehow, Mbappé almost made it look easy, at least from the outside. What it actually cost him, that is a very different story. Mbappé grew up in Bondy, a suburb northeast of Paris. Not a place that produced professional footballers regularly. Not a place with famous academies or scouts parked outside training grounds. Just a neighborhood where kids played in the streets because they loved it, and where most of them stayed. His father ran a local football school. His mother was a handball player who later became his agent. From very early on, football in that house was not casual. It was structured. It was serious. Repetition, discipline, standards. And Kylian absorbed all of it quietly, without any fuss, like it was the most natural thing in the world. Monaco saw him at 11 and brought him into their academy. Even there, surrounded by the best young players in France, he was different. Not louder, not more vocal, just physically impossible to contain. His acceleration over 5 meters was something coaches genuinely struggled to explain to scouts who asked about it. He would receive the ball, shift his weight once, and the defender was already beaten before the run had even properly started. It was not just pace, it was timing. And timing at that age is almost impossible to teach. But here is what most people skip over. Monaco almost lost him before any of this happened. Chelsea came in early. Real Madrid were watching. Several clubs across Europe had registered serious interest. His parents made the decision to keep him in France, to let him develop without a massive stage and a massive contract before he was even a teenager. That decision gave him time. And time, it turned out, was exactly what he needed. He made his professional debut at 16, which is extraordinary, but his first season was quiet. He was learning, getting used to the pace and physicality of senior football. People who watched closely saw what was coming. People who only watched occasionally just saw a teenager getting minutes. Then came the 2016 to 2017 season, and everything changed. Monaco that year were playing football that made people genuinely stop what they were doing. A young, fast, devastating team that pressed and ran and scored and kept going. The Stade Louis II was alive every single home match in a way that felt almost chaotic. And Mbappé was at the center of all of it. 17 years old, in the Champions League, in the quarterfinals, tearing apart defenses that had prepared specifically for weeks to stop exactly this. The game against Manchester City. You could hear it in the commentary before he even touched the ball in dangerous areas. A tension in the stadium whenever he received it in space. City's defenders were experienced, organized, properly coached, and they simply could not deal with him. He scored in both legs. He was not just fast in a straight line. He had balance. He had technique at full speed. He could cut inside, go outside, hold play up, or burst past 3 defenders in the space of 4 seconds. There was no single answer to him because he did not have a single way of hurting you. Coaches could plan for one version. He would give them a different one entirely. PSG signed him the following summer. A loan initially, then permanent. When everything was added up, the fee was close to 180 million euros. The most expensive teenager in football history. He was 18 years old. And this is where the story starts getting complicated. Paris was not Monaco. At Monaco, he had freedom and space to make mistakes. At PSG, he had Neymar alongside him, an enormous sporting project around him, and scrutiny that followed him absolutely everywhere. Every performance analyzed the next morning. Every match debated on television for days. Every touch either celebrated loudly or pulled apart by people who had decided before kickoff what they thought of him. In his first full season, he was brilliant. Genuinely. He and Neymar combined in ways that gave opposition managers real tactical problems with no easy solution. He scored regularly. He improved across every area of his game. He won league title after league title. But there was a ceiling he kept hitting. A ceiling that had nothing to do with individual quality. And that ceiling had one name: the Champions League. Year after year, PSG found a way to fall apart in Europe when it mattered. Different opponents, different seasons, same result. And Mbappé, despite being extraordinary individually in that tournament, was part of a team that kept producing the same elimination. Barcelona, Manchester United, Bayern Munich, Real Madrid. The manner of some of those exits was almost surreal. A 3-0 first leg lead overturned. A penalty conceded in the dying seconds of extra time at the Parc des Princes. And the crowd, who had built themselves up to believe this was finally the year, going completely silent again. That silence after a European exit at PSG had its own specific weight. And Mbappé sat inside it every single time. He was not the reason PSG kept failing in Europe. That much was clear to anyone watching honestly. But he was the face of the team. When the team failed, his face was the one the cameras found in the dressing room tunnel. His were the quotes they replayed. His was the legacy being measured. The national team gave him something different. Russia, 2018, the World Cup. France. A squad built on talent but also on defensive organization and collective discipline. And in the round of 16 against Argentina, a 19-year-old Mbappé produced one of the most electric individual performances anyone had seen at a World Cup in a generation. He destroyed the Argentine right side completely and repeatedly. Every time he received the ball in that channel, you could feel the crowd react before he had even turned. He won a penalty, he scored twice. The second goal, a run from deep that built over 30 meters and finished with a precise low shot into the far corner, was later timed at 37 kilometers per hour. Faster than any player had ever been recorded moving at a World Cup. Argentina's defenders, experienced international players, simply had no physical response available to them. There was nothing to do but watch. France won the tournament. Mbappé won the Best Young Player award. He was 19. He became only the second teenager in World Cup final history to score. The first had been Pelé. That comparison right there, that is the weight. In the years that followed, the expectations kept growing. Every season carried the same question, louder each time. Is this the year PSG finally win the Champions League? Is this the year he proves definitively he is the best in the world? He signed contract extensions. He rejected others. Real Madrid waited year after year, quietly, patiently, certain he would eventually arrive. The transfer saga played out across 3 separate transfer windows. Leaked conversations, public statements from club presidents, and endless front pages across Europe. And through all of it, he was still performing. Still delivering moments that no one else in the game could produce. But the question never disappeared. It just got louder and more personal every season. Then came Qatar, 2022. The World Cup final. France against Argentina. The match the whole world had wanted. He scored a hat trick. A hat trick in a World Cup final. And France still lost. On penalties. He scored every single one of his spot kicks perfectly. He was statistically the best player in the match. The best player across the entire tournament. He won the Golden Boot by a distance. And he finished on the losing side. He sat on the pitch afterwards and stared at nothing for a long time. The Argentine celebrations happening around him, confetti falling, and him just sitting there. That image, that specific moment. That is the central wound of this story, because it captured something that had started to feel true about where his career kept arriving. The individual quality was never the question. The defining moments, the ones that would eventually settle a legacy, kept appearing just out of reach. He was doing everything a footballer could possibly do. And somehow it kept not being enough. The move to Real Madrid finally came in 2024. A free transfer. No fee. The club he had watched as a boy. The club that had been circling for years and never stopped believing it would happen. And there was something about the way it unfolded that felt almost cinematic. The kid from Bondi, who had been approached by half of Europe's biggest clubs before he was 13, walking into the Bernabeu as one of the most recognized athletes on the planet. The reception was not like a new signing arriving for preseason. The stadium was full. Tens of thousands of people there just to see him walk out. The noise was something else entirely. And for the first time in a long time, watching him in that moment, you got the genuine sense that he was exactly where he had always wanted to be. In his first season, there were moments where it all clicked. Bursts of acceleration that left defenders grasping at air. Goals that stopped commentators mid-sentence before the crowd filled the silence. He was not carrying an entire project on his back the way he sometimes had in Paris. He was part of a structure built to win, with teammates who understood the competition, in a stadium that exists for exactly this. And yet, the questions have not fully gone away. They never really do when the comparison attached to your name involves the two greatest players the sport has ever produced. What you can say with certainty is this. There was a boy in Bondi who was fast enough that scouts wrote it down when he was 11, who debuted professionally at 16, who scored a hat-trick in a World Cup final and still lost, who sat through European exit after European exit and never once publicly broke, who carried an impossible comparison before he was old enough to vote and kept showing up anyway. Nobody replaces Messi. Nobody replaces Ronaldo. Maybe that was never really the point. Maybe the real story was always about what happens when football asks a teenager to carry something impossible. And if you enjoy stories like this, the pressure, the obsession, the moments nobody talks about, there are more waiting for you here.